The latest development on CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful has shaken the Forrester family to its core, and it all began with a stunning revelation involving Taylor Hayes, Finn Finnegan. And a secret so shocking that it has the potential to unravel everything. Taylor, who has long been a central figure in the lives of the Forrester family, is hiding a heartbreaking truth that no one saw coming. As Finn learns the truth about his mother-in-law's health, the family is thrown into a whirlwind of emotions, with Ridge caught in the middle of a web of lies, secrets, and betrayal. This shocking turn of events sets the stage for a dramatic confrontation that will change the course of several lives forever. The story begins with Taylor's health, which has been a closely guarded secret for some time. Finn, the loving and devoted husband of Steffi Forrester, has always had a close relationship with his mother-in-law. But when Taylor confides in him that she is still struggling with her heart disease, despite the fact that everyone believed she was well on the road to recovery, it sends Finn into a state of shock. Taylor, weakened by her condition and deeply aware that time is running out, makes a desperate request of Finn. She begs him to keep her illness a secret from her family and friends, fearing that revealing the truth would only make matters worse. But even more pressing than her health is Taylor's final wish. She wants to marry Ridge. This is not just a wish born out of love, but a need to solidify her connection to the man she has always loved before it's too late. Taylor, knowing that her time is limited, is desperate for the opportunity to be with Ridge again, to find closure and peace before her condition deteriorates further. However, as much as she longs for this moment, there is a huge obstacle standing in her way. Ridge is already in the midst of his complicated relationship with Brooke Logan. Taylor knows that Ridge has been torn between his feelings for her and Brooke, but she is willing to do whatever it takes to convince him that she is the one he should be with in her final days. As Taylor struggles to maintain her dignity and privacy, she becomes increasingly desperate, willing to do anything to ensure that Ridge sees her as his true love. She is not just fighting for her life, but for the man she believes is her destiny. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, Finn finds himself torn between his loyalty to his wife, Steffi, and his deep affection and respect for Taylor. He knows that revealing the truth about Taylor's health could break Steffi's heart, but he also knows that Taylor is holding onto a dream that may be out of reach. What starts as a small request, asking Finn to keep her secret, soon grows into a much larger moral dilemma. Finn finds himself facing an impossible choice. Should he respect his mother-in-law's wishes and keep the secret, or should he reveal the truth to Ridge and let him know what's really going on? As Finn grapples with his decision, he becomes increasingly concerned about the impact that Taylor's secret could have on the Forrester family. The weight of the situation is overwhelming, and he knows that if he doesn't act soon, the consequences could be dire. After much internal struggle, Finn decides that he cannot let his mother-in-law's final wish be clouded by secrecy. He goes to Ridge, hoping to set things right and reveal the truth about Taylor's condition. When Finn tells Ridge that Taylor is still very ill and may not have much time left, Ridge is stunned. His heart aches for Taylor, and he is torn between the woman he once loved and his current life with Brooke. As Finn explains the situation, he emphasizes that Taylor's wish is to marry Ridge before her time runs out. This revelation is too much for Ridge to process at once. He feels conflicted and unsure of what to do next. The man who has spent years being pulled between his love for Taylor and his devotion to Brooke is now faced with a decision that will shape his future. The situation becomes even more complicated when Brooke learns of Finn's revelation. Brooke, who has always been fiercely protective of her relationship with Ridge, refuses to believe that Taylor's intentions are genuine. She accuses Finn and Taylor of orchestrating a scheme to win Ridge's heart. To Brooke, this revelation feels like nothing more than an elaborate ploy to pull Ridge away from her, to weaken the bond they have worked so hard to rebuild. Brooke's emotions run high as she confronts Finn, demanding that he explain why he would support such a plan. In her eyes, Taylor's secret and her final wish are just a desperate attempt to manipulate Ridge and she is determined to fight back. But Finn is adamant that this isn't some plot or scheme, it's a mother's dying wish. He believes that Taylor is genuinely in love with Ridge and simply wants a chance to spend her final days with him. He tries to convince Brooke that the situation is more complicated than she realizes, but Brooke refuses to see it that way. Her anger and disbelief cloud her judgment, and she becomes convinced that Taylor and Finn are working together to undermine her relationship with Ridge. At this point, Ridge is left in a state of confusion and emotional turmoil. He loves Brooke, but the truth about Taylor's health and her final wish has shaken him to his core. He has always felt a deep connection to Taylor, but his commitment to Brooke has always come first. Now, with Taylor's illness hanging over them all, Ridge is forced to confront the reality of his feelings for both women. He cannot deny that his past with Taylor holds significant emotional weight, but he also cannot forget the life he has built with Brooke. As Ridge grapples with his emotions, Steffi remains unaware of the full extent of the situation. She has not yet learned the truth about her mother's illness, and Finn is torn between protecting her from the pain of the truth and honoring his obligation to be honest with her. It's clear that Steffi will not take this news well, and Finn fears that the revelation could tear their family apart. But ultimately, he knows that the truth must come out, and he can only hope that Steffi will eventually understand his decision to speak out. As the drama unfolds, the tension between Ridge, Brooke, and Taylor intensifies. With Taylor's health deteriorating rapidly, Ridge is faced with the impossible choice of whether to be with the woman he once loved in her final days or to stand by his current wife, the woman he has fought so hard to keep in his life. Brooke's suspicion and mistrust of Taylor and Finn only make the situation more complicated, and Ridge finds himself at the center of a storm of emotions and conflicting desires. In the end, the future of Ridge's relationships with both women is uncertain. As Steffi continues to be kept in the dark, the truth about Taylor's health hangs over the entire Forrester family like a dark cloud. What will happen when Steffi learns the truth, and how will Ridge make the impossible decision between his love for Taylor and his devotion to Brooke? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain, the fallout from this secret will have far-reaching consequences for everyone involved. In the coming weeks, as the story continues to unfold, the Forrester family will face some of its most difficult challenges yet. What will happen when the truth finally comes to light, and how will it change the lives of those who have been caught in this web of love, betrayal, and heartbreaking secrets? The answers to these questions remain to be seen, but the drama is far from over. The intricate web of love, betrayal, and family secrets on CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful takes another dramatic turn as Finn Finnegan, torn between loyalty and honesty, decides to confront Ridge with a devastating truth that changes everything. In a series of gut-wrenching twists, Finn hands Ridge medical documents and a prescription that reveal Taylor Hayes is suffering from heart disease far worse than anyone had realized. What began as a small secret held by Taylor about her declining health now escalates into an emotional roller coaster that involves nearly everyone in the Forrester and Logan families. Ridge, stunned by the news that Taylor's condition could take her life at any moment, is forced to reevaluate his feelings and make an impossible choice. But just when it seems as though Taylor's wish to marry Ridge before her health deteriorates may come true, another shocking event throws everything into chaos, changing the course of the Forrester family's future forever. When Finn learned the truth about Taylor's condition, it hit him harder than he could have imagined. His mother-in-law, the woman who had been such an important part of his life and his wife's life, was facing a life-threatening heart condition that had been hidden from everyone, even Steffi, his own wife. Taylor had always been a woman of strength who had fought through numerous personal trials, but now she was fighting for her life. In a desperate plea, Taylor had asked Finn to keep her condition a secret, unwilling to burden anyone, especially Steffi. However, as Finn processed the gravity of the situation, he realized that the time for secrets was running out. Taylor's condition wasn't just deteriorating. It was dangerously close to reaching a point where it could take her life at any given moment. Finn's heart ached for Taylor, knowing that this was not only a medical battle, but also an emotional one, as Taylor's biggest wish was to marry Ridge before her time ran out. But how could he stand by and let her die without telling the truth? Torn between keeping his promise to Taylor and the need to do what was right for the family, Finn made the decision to tell Ridge the truth. Finn took the medical documents, test results that showed Taylor's worsening heart condition, and the prescription she had been hiding for months, and brought them directly to Ridge. As Ridge looked at the documents in disbelief, the weight of the situation hit him hard. The woman he had once loved deeply, and the woman who had always been there for him, was facing a painful and unpredictable death. Ridge, a man who had spent so much of his life torn between his feelings for Taylor and Brooke, now found himself confronting an unimaginable choice. With the weight of the truth before him, Ridge couldn't ignore Taylor's plea for him to marry her. The emotional turmoil of the moment was overwhelming. He had always cared for Taylor, and despite the years of separation, their bond had never truly disappeared. Ridge had always been protective of Taylor, even when their romantic relationship ended. But now, in light of her health crisis, he was faced with the urgent reality that time was running out. Ridge decided that he could not let Taylor go without honoring her last wish. In a shocking turn of events, Ridge made the decision to marry Taylor. The Forrester family was rocked to its core as Ridge announced his intention to marry Taylor, despite his ongoing relationship with Brooke. The wedding was planned quickly, with Ridge doing everything he could to make Taylor's final days as special as possible. The Forrester estate was abuzz with preparations for the wedding, and for the first time in years, Taylor and Ridge were about to have the wedding they had always dreamed of, albeit under the most heartbreaking circumstances. As Ridge prepared to marry Taylor, the tension between Brooke and Taylor reached new heights. Brooke, who had long been Ridge's partner and the woman he had shared so much of his life with, was left feeling abandoned. She had hoped for a future with Ridge, a future in which they could build a life together, but now that hope was slipping away. Despite her heartbreak, Brooke tried to be understanding, knowing that Taylor's illness had brought out a sense of duty in Ridge. Still, the pain of seeing Ridge choose Taylor, especially under such tragic circumstances, was too much for Brooke to bear. On the day of the wedding, emotions were running high as the ceremony was set to take place. The atmosphere was one of quiet sadness as Taylor walked down the aisle, knowing that this could be the last moment of happiness she would ever experience. Ridge, looking at Taylor, could barely hold back tears as he prepared to commit to her for the remainder of her life, no matter how short that time might be. But just as the vows were about to be exchanged, a devastating interruption shattered the fragile happiness of the moment. Ridge's phone rang, and the news on the other end of the line was enough to send his world crashing down. Brooke had been rushed to the hospital after taking an overdose of sleeping pills. The shock of the news hit Ridge like a ton of bricks. His heart raced as he tried to comprehend the situation. Brooke, the woman he had been with for so many years, had seemingly lost all hope. How could this happen at such a critical moment? Ridge's emotions were torn in all directions as he quickly excused himself from the wedding, leaving Taylor standing at the altar. The man who had just promised to marry her in the face of her death was now rushing to be by Brooke's side, unsure of how he would ever be able to reconcile his feelings for both women. The timing of this tragedy couldn't have been worse. While Taylor, who had been fighting for every moment of her life, was left waiting for a husband who had promised to marry her, Brooke lay in a hospital bed, seemingly having given up on everything. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on Ridge. He had spent so much of his life bouncing between these two women, trying to figure out where his heart truly belonged, and now, in the worst of circumstances, both women needed him in entirely different ways. His mind raced as he made his way to the hospital, wondering how he would ever navigate the storm he was caught in. Meanwhile, Taylor's world was also crashing down. Left standing at the altar, she could only wonder how much of Ridge's heart was truly hers. Her health was fading, her future uncertain, and now even the man she had always loved seemed to be slipping away. She fought to hold back tears as she realized that Ridge's dedication to her might not be enough to overcome the overwhelming shadow of Brooke's emotional breakdown. As Ridge arrived at the hospital, the scene was one of chaos. Brooke, lying unconscious in the emergency room, was surrounded by doctors and nurses trying to stabilize her. Ridge was beside himself with worry, feeling as though he had no control over the situation. The woman he loved was fighting for her life, but so was the woman he had promised to marry. What could he do to make everything right? How could he possibly choose between these two women, both of whom needed him desperately? The tension was unbearable as Ridge struggled to figure out what his future would look like. Would he be able to heal Brooke's wounds and help her find her way back to life? Or would he honor Taylor's wish and marry her, giving her the closure she so desperately needed before her time ran out? The answer was not clear, and the dramatic crossroads that Ridge now faced would have far-reaching consequences for everyone involved. The Forrester family's complicated love triangle had just reached a boiling point, and the fallout from this crisis would undoubtedly change their lives forever.